Everyone, hi. Thank you for watching once again. This is Bruce Muffson from Sunridge of Nevada with our latest video. Here's what we're talking about today, and we're talking about suicide. We're talking about suicide that's taking place on Facebook or Facebook Live, actually. I want to describe 4 situations and go over them, and I want to bring up some facts, some information, and kind of go from there. Here we go. The first one that took place was a 12-year-old girl on December 30th. Just remember the dates. Her name was Kaitlin Nicole Davis from Georgia. She took her own life using a streaming app called Live.me. They don't describe how she took her life, and I don't want to really get into the details. Once Kaitlin's parents realized her suicide was online, it was quickly removed, but then uploaded to other sites, including Facebook Live. She was the first. This came out of the Miami Herald because they described another suicide of a second girl. Her name was Nicole Venant. And this was on January 22nd. She hung herself in the bathroom at the home that she was at. She was in a foster home, and her foster parents were sleeping. She hung herself. And the Florida Department of Children and Families could offer a little reasoning why she would do what she did. That was the second one. The third one was literally a day later, was an actor named Frederick Baut, 33 years old. He had an acting career, he'd been in several movies, but on his Facebook feed, he was talking about, on Facebook Live, he talked about his acting career. He had a knee injury that he felt had blocked him from getting into the NBA. He was a father of 6. Now, he had been arrested the week before for suspicion of sexual assault, but never charged. He was released on bail that weekend, that Friday afternoon. And he committed suicide Monday morning. And then the fourth one was 6 days later, or January 29th, a military police officer from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, a Douglas Vieira, 28, committed suicide and put everything online on Facebook. He talked to several people before consummating the act. In the end, he put the weapon against his own head and pulls the trigger. And you can actually, unfortunately, they actually show this. If it's certain sites now that still have it, that if you want to watch it, you have to say you're over 18, but they actually show him putting the gun against his head and pulling the trigger. You don't see that. I didn't see that. Bowdy was taken off immediately. Nicole Venant was taken off immediately, as was Kaitlin Nicole Davis was taken off immediately. But it said that for Douglas, he was having financial troubles, an ongoing divorce, he needed to work extra jobs, and a history of depression, and had previous suicide attempts. What's concerning to me as a clinical social worker, I mean, I'm not naive to suicide goes around in America and around the world, but just the rate of these incidents happening. First one was December 30th. Second one was January 22nd. Third was January 23rd. And then the fourth was January 29th, all essentially of this year, December 30th essentially being New Year's. I want to share with you some facts about suicide just to kind of put it in perspective so people have a better idea of what we're looking at. And this comes from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. Every year, 44,000, let's say 200 people, 193, die by suicide. 44,200 people die every year by suicide. For every suicide that is done, 25 are attempted. It's a pretty staggering number. On average, there's 121 suicides per day, and firearms account for 50% of all suicides. Men die by suicide 3.5 times more often than women, and white males accounted for 7 out of 10 suicides in 2015. Rate of suicide is highest in middle age, white men in particular, and many suicide attempts go unreported, and they think that at least 1 million people in the United States each year engage in intentionally inflicted self-harm. What's interesting to me is that several statistics referring to white males, middle age, 7 out of 10, most likely to be affected by suicide, yet I didn't even release the identity of these people. Frederick Baut was an African American. Nicole Venant, I saw a picture of her. She was an African American female. I don't know what Kaitlin Nicole Davis's ethnicity was. And Douglas Vieira would be considered to be a Latino. or Portuguese, whatever how they're defined, however he would have been defined in Brazil, but clearly a non-white male. And none of the ages are even close to middle age. So it just shows you that suicide is much more vast than we realize and comprehend, and that it affects literally all segments of society. What's changing it though, if you notice that these four people, is that it was all social media involved, all social media relevant, and that these people felt content enough to post their own death on live, Facebook Live. We did a video last summer about a rapper named Casper Knight. And on July 22nd, he had put a gun to his cheek, fired it, and had gone through, and he had been driven to the hospital. And it created a bit of a media sensation. You know, wannabe rapper or current rapper. He actually wrote into us and told us his version of the events. But in any event, he did do this act, and he received stitches for it. He put out a second video showing the stitches. And he was got a lot of like, oh, he's an idiot, he's crazy. But he still did do it. And at this point, he's received 2 million views for what's taken place. Now, there was also a movie that came out past summer, July 22nd, called Nerve. And it was basically a movie. The story is nothing amazing, but the concept of Nerve was truth were dare, players were watchers. And it was about increasingly how to get likes, and money was increasingly to take on more dares. And the greater the dare, the greater the risk, the more money, the more followers, the more popular you became. Till at the very end, what happened was that there was someone was supposed to be killed. That was the ultimate dare. And what happened was in the end, the person didn't fire, everyone was exposed, blah, blah, blah. And that was the end of it. But I thought to myself, this is an interesting concept, that they're taking it this far to show how powerful the internet is, how powerful social media is, and how powerful is the phone for adolescents in general, young people who live their whole life online, posting pictures of themselves, talking about themselves, and going through that. And to me, it's very illustrative, which I'm concerned about on a clinical level, is that people are feeling comfortable that this is acceptable way of taking your own life. Obviously, my heart goes out to all the four families of these people that had actually were able to go through with it and commit suicide. It's a terrible, terrible thing to go through. It devastates families. It devastates families forever. It's horrific and it's very, very destructive. And what's left behind is such a sense of unknown and why and what if. It's devastating to the families. My concern, and we're not, of course, touting this or encouraging this, is that this is going to continue. For young people, seeing this as an effective way to announce to the world that they're in so much pain, they're so unhappy, that they are willing to commit this act literally live as like their final social media piece, with their final blog, with their final video. What we're telling parents is be aware when someone is getting to that kind of mindset where feel like their life is over, we're feeling so helpless and hopeless. My concern, my fear, is that's going to go from, like Casper Knight shooting himself through the cheek, and now people committing suicide online, Facebook Live, is that it's going to go from one person to two people, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, 3 girls, 5 guys, a cult. So not just going to be for one person, it's going to be, hey, one person gets you this much notoriety. What will 3 people do? What will 15 people do? What will 50 people do? But to show it online as a way to give some understanding of why am I doing this, or why am I don't understand why I'm doing it, but to get that notoriety out there. And again, our hearts go out to those 4 families of these people that committed suicide, how dreadful and how sad it was. They felt this was their only way out. But we want people to be aware of it, and to be aware that often with these kinds of things and social media being so prevalent, you may see copycats on a higher and deeper level. Go from 1 to 3 to 5 to 15, 50 to 100. That is my concern. All we're saying is be prepared, be aware. I read these statistics, and of these 4 people that have committed suicide, none of them fit the profile. That's what makes suicide so scary, is that when you think you know, you don't really know as much as you think. Again, just some key tips. Be aware of what your kids are doing. If someone is hurting, try and be a support. If someone needs to get help, get them help. Don't hold it in. Don't say, "Oh, it's a passing mood." Get the help you need now. Be safe. Don't be sorry. Suicide is a terrible, terrible thing to do to yourself, and the devastation it leaves your family is unfathomable. Just want to get this quick video out. We were just concerned about the topic. We felt we had to say something about it, and here it is. Thank you again for watching, and we'll continue to make more and more videos. Thank you again. Bye.